There is freedom. There's something extraordinary for you on the other side of your fear. But it's up to you to get to the other side. See, we have this idea, and I used to think this too. We think we have to feel courageous to act courageous. But what if we don't feel it? Like, what do you do when you're standing on the side of the boat and there are dorsal fins everywhere and you're just plain scared out of your mind? How are you supposed to be brave then? What do you do when God is calling you to something huge and impossible and you've never felt more unqualified in your life? How are you supposed to be brave then or have courage then? What do you do when at the end of the day you feel weak and unworthy and inadequate and just downright scared? I'll tell you what you do. You do it anyway. You do it scared. See, we have this idea that we have to feel courageous to be courageous. If you're waiting until you're not scared to do the thing you want to do, you'll never do it. You just do it scared. You do it while you're scared. You launch the business. You walk on the stage. You share the video or post that blog or preach that sermon that's been nagging at you, that sermon. You say the thing that no one else will say. You speak up in that meeting. You put yourself out there and do the thing anyway. You just do it scared. Now, there are 3 truths that I think help us do this. Actually, put this into practice and live this out when we walk out of this room here today. The first thing that I want you to know is that fear is normal. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I used to think of fear as a bad sign, right? Like it's a red flag, turn back now, don't do the thing. If I was supposed to do it, I wouldn't be so scared. So since I'm scared, that must be the wrong direction I'm supposed to go. But fear is actually a normal part of the journey. Fear isn't a bad sign. It doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. Fear isn't a sign you're doing something bad. It's actually a sign you're doing something bold. And even if you conquer your fear of one thing, as soon as you push yourself, as soon as you try something new that you've never done before, as soon as you step outside your comfort zone, which, by the way, is where all impactful things happen, the moment you do that, you've got new fears. Of course you're scared. You've never done it before. You don't know how this is going to turn out. I love the quote by Joyce Meyer. She says, "New levels, new devils." So even once you've conquered your fear of one thing, the moment you try something new, that fear is going to creep up again. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I used to think that if I could just get good enough, if I could just perform well enough, that I could outperform fear. Like I could just get good enough, I could become successful enough or liked enough or perform well enough that then I wouldn't be scared anymore. But here's what's interesting. Fear accompanies you at every stage of the journey, at every level of success. In fact, there's a term that researchers coined in the 70s, I'm sure you're familiar with it, called the imposter syndrome. The imposter syndrome is where you live with this nagging feeling of being found out. The signature line of the imposter syndrome is, who are you? Who are you to do that? Who are you to start that business? Who are you to lead that ministry? Who are you to start that nonprofit? Who do you think you are to write that book? That's the signature line of the imposter syndrome. And what's so interesting is that researchers believe up to 70% of people suffer from it. Women more often than men. And here's the fun part. It's actually a trait of the high achiever. So those of you, all of you out there on the front lines moving and shaking and making things happen are the ones experiencing this fear. People sitting on their couch eating Cheetos all day aren't really worried if they're good enough wringing their hands, right? They should worry about that. It's the trait of the high achiever. And even really successful people have these same fears. I love the quote by Maya Angelou where she says, "I have written 11 books, but each time I think, they're going to find out now. I have run a game on everybody, and they're going to find me out." That's Maya Angelou. Award-winning actress Kate Winslet, who I found out it's her birthday today, by the way, she has said, "I'd wake up in the morning before going off to a shoot, and I would think, I can't do this. I'm a fraud." You know, this idea of the imposter syndrome being a trait of the high achiever at least helps us understand this is normal. Fear isn't a bad sign. It's not a sign you're doing something bad. It's a sign you're doing something bold. And you all the leaders, you're the ones doing big things and bold things. And you know what that means? If you're a little scared, it means that something is on the line. You're scared because this matters. If it didn't, then the enemy wouldn't be trying to stop you and scare you and keep you stuck. You've got a target on your back because this matters.